Make sure you note the title. We are not resurrecting, we are revisiting. Jesus Revisited. Here on Crown Jewels, coming up next. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to PLD Projects Crown Jewels. I'm your host, PLD, and this is the podcast where I'm taking you through the entirety of the Queen catalog, song by song, version by version, as we try to figure out which version is the titular crown jewel or best version out there so we can slide it into our ultimate playlists. I apologize for missing last week. I just had so much things that I had going on. I went to New York City for the weekend with my wife, and I had a lot of other podcasts I was recording, and this one being a solo podcast was just the easiest for me to be able to reschedule. I don't like missing weeks, but sometimes it does happen. There will be another one. There will be other times I'm sure it'll happen again, but I try to at least bank enough sometimes that I don't have to miss a week even when I can't record a week, but sometimes it just doesn't work out. But we're here this week talking about the song Jesus. We are still in the headlong of... headlong. That's an innuendo joke you'll get later on if you haven't gotten there yet. Queen 1 Collector's Box Set Edition was re-released in December of 2024, and we have been, or was it November of 2024, end of last year, and we've been going through those songs because we have a lot of new versions of the songs that we had done previously on the podcast. A lot of them have 2 or 3 new versions to listen to contend for that title, and we want to give them their fair due. This week's song actually has probably the most. We have 5 new versions to listen to see if it can contend with what did win last time, which was the album version. Last time we had the album version and the Dane Lane Lead demo version. This week, we have the 2024 mix, as all of the Queen 1 Collector's Edition box set songs got a 2024 mix. We got a 2024 mix of the Dane Lane Lead demo. We have a Dane Lane Lead Take 2 with a guide vocal demo version of it. We have a backing track version, and we have a very special version live at Imperial College from August 23rd, 1970, the only officially released and actually the only live version I know of. I don't believe Jesus ever even appeared on a bootleg in any way, shape, or form. Also, more importantly, it is a pre-John Deacon Queen live concert. That's right. Barry Mitchell, one of the band handful of basses before John Deacon settled in with the official lineup before the release of the official album, the first original album, rather, I should say. And so it's a very interesting version to listen to for sure. It's a very young, raw Queen. This is actually a very exciting take that we got to hear. Brian and Roger talked about finding this in the archives, this whole Imperial College concert. There was talk of maybe releasing the whole thing, even though the band was very young, very raw, and goes against the band's perfectionist state to release such efforts. And, the sound quality is not the greatest. It's not a soundboard kind of thing. It was basically recorded by the band themselves, but it's definitely interesting to listen to, and I'm glad, even if we don't get the full concert, we do get this song and another song, a cover of I'm the Man, which we'll get into later on in a week or two anyway. But that's in the future. Let's talk about this week, Jesus. Now, as I mentioned, we are revisiting Jesus, so we actually already have an episode on Jesus. So if you want the whole shebang, the notes, the quotes, the history, the instruments, all that kind of stuff, go back to our original episode on Jesus, and that'll suffice for you. This is just about the new version, so we're going to get right into the meat and potatoes of the show, which is listening to the different versions and seeing whether or not they will slide into our top 10 Queen-related tracks of all time, and to see which version is going to be in our ultimate playlist. Now, how do we do that? Well, I don't like to get copyright struck in any way, shape, or form. So what I do is if you look in the show notes below, the show description, you'll see a link to a Google Doc, and on that Google Doc are links to YouTube versions of all the different tracks and versions we're going to listen to. So when I tell you to do so, you will pause this podcast, click on that link, find the track, the version we're going to listen to it, come back, and hear me talk about it. So without further ado, let's get right into it. What we're going to hear first, I want you to go listen to the actual album version of Jesus, which won last time, and also listen to the 2024 mix so you get that juxtaposition. That's the first one we're going to hear, so do what I said, pause me, come back for more. I'll be right back. And welcome back. I beginning to sound a little bit like a broken record if you are a long-time listener. I do apologize for having to repeat some things, but you never know if this is someone's first time listening or not. I want to let you know the reason why the band released this album or remixed this album as they did is they were never happy with the sound, because when they first recorded it, they were forced to record it in Trident's setup with Trident's instruments at the dead hours of the night. They weren't able to really create the sound that they wanted to create. They were able to master in subsequent albums. So Roger specifically really hated the drum sound. Brian also said the production was kind of muddy. They were never really happy with it. So this was like a chance for them to go back and really, with the modern technology, really give it the boost they just felt it deserved. And I gotta say, the results are pretty spectacular, I think. Your miles may vary. Some don't like it as much. Some say it sounds kind of modern. Some say it's kind of too modern for the album itself, but I think it's a pretty good overall. I think there's more pros than cons for sure. But let's dive right into it. Another time I sound a lot more like a broken record is because a lot of the stuff that I'm mentioning as far as distinctions go, because I'm not talking about the songs generally, I'm generally talking about the differences in the mixes at this point, unless it's like a newer version, or an unheard version rather. This is just like a 2024 mix. This is literally just the same song, just remixed slightly different. So I can't really talk about the song that much differently. I can only talk about the mix, and the mixes are all affected in similar ways. I mean, the drums are really different on every track, so I always mention how the drums sound. I always mention, like, specifically if we hear something more. In this case, we get that full drum roll in the beginning because the separation of the tracks is much more distinct. That's another thing that is kind of a running track for the entire album at this point, is that the tracks are less muddy. They're all separated more. You can hear them so much more distinctly, which allows you to hear those full drum rolls. You hear Freddie's voice being so crisp and forward to the front of the track. In this case, in this particular song, I think the vocals are so much more well done. It's almost like 3D. It almost feels like Freddie's right there with you. The guitar is so layered, as Brian May always does. He always has those layered guitar parts, but again, with the separation, each part feels distinct. It's a real revolution of guitar work, and it makes that ending bit so much more haunting. So this is definitely an upgrade again from the album version that we originally had, the muddiness of that. It's still the same song it was, but it is just sounds so much more thunderous, so much more right in your face, so much more like Queen, honestly. This feels like a really powerful version. So your miles may vary, like I said. All right. That's it for this particular version. I'm going to have you pause me again. Let's go listen now to the Delaine Lay demo, which is originally released in 2011 on the Island CD edition release of Queen. It had a bonus CD with it, and that included all the Delaine Lay demos, but they're sourced from Brian May's personal acetate. There's a little crackliness to it. It's an older source. This seems like they actually got the actual source tape for this release, which is so much more exciting for the 2024 mix. It is a different, cleaner copy, so I want you to listen to both the original so you can tell what I was talking about before. Then you got to take a listen to the 2024 mix, which is ultimately very different. So go ahead, do that. Come back. I'll be waiting. Okay, welcome back. Man, this was a revelation. Not only was, I gotta say the difference between the original album version versus the 2024 mix, it almost pales in comparison between the 2011 release of the Delaine Lay demo sourced from Brian May's home acetate and the 2024 mixes of the Delaine Lay demo. Much cleaner copy. This is a treasure. The extended guitar section, we got the mix, which is far crisper. I actually hear some piano that was previously buried in the mix, and I went back to the 2011 version, and I can hear it now that I know it's there and I'm searching for it. I never would have picked it out before. This time I can really hear it and add in a layer to the song, which was just not there before. And it's very subtle. It's not like it's very overt and out there, even in the 2024 mix, but it just adds that extra layer to it. We also get the full extended vocal ending with the nice little harmonies and the atmospheric ending of it. This is powerful stuff. This version, I think maybe this is all done. After this is all done, maybe I should rank the best versions of the 2024 mixes. What got the best upgrade from this? And if so, this is a contender for me for one of the best upgrades the 2024 VIX got. This is very much definitely a higher improvement than what we got in 2011. All right, let's go on to the next version now. The next one is one of the demos. Every one of the box sets we've got recently from News of the World, Miracle, and now Queen One. They have a box. They have a disc full of earlier takes. Takes 1 and 2, 3, 4, that kind of stuff, and usually with guide vocals sometimes. And I mentioned what a guide vocal is. If you don't know, it's just basically where Freddie is, or whoever, mostly Freddie though, is just kind of singing, so the band has a key point. Oh yeah, this is where this comes in, this is where that verse is, this is where that chorus is. So as they're playing along, but it's not Freddie really trying his best. He's not like giving a final vocal. He's just kind of playing with the melody a bit. So usually these don't end up anywhere near my crown jewel. But they are awesome to listen to and very interesting to listen to. It's kind of the difference between, is this a important track in the history of Queen versus this particular podcast when we're trying to find the best version. That's kind of a different task, because if you ask me to rank what I like the best about the Queen One Collector's Edition, sometimes it's these earlier takes that I get to hear these kind of very interesting how the songs developed, how they expanded on things, they cut things out. Those are some of the most interesting things for me to listen to. But I'm not going to put them in an ultimate playlist for the best version, But maybe your miles may vary. Maybe you'll love it even more. So without further ado, let's go listen to Daylane Lay Take 2 with guide vocal and come back and we'll talk about it. Okay, welcome back, and let me tell you, if there was a guide vocal demo that I would put possibly as a crown jewel potential, this might be it, and it's because of the backing track. Such a harder version is literally thunderous. I mean, this is probably some of the heaviest stuff Queen's put on record at this point. Just boom, 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 boom. It is just a masterful, thunderous playing. Now, it's very early on. It is take 2 of the Daylane Lay sessions, which are some of the first demos the band recorded. Unfortunately, it does have a guide vocal, and Freddie's screwing up the lyrics left and right. He's just playing with the melody. He screws up different verses and things of that nature. It's interesting, but it gets a bit silly at times, and I almost wish I could maybe I'll try that as a remix someday, try to clean up take out the thunderous background version and put a more clean vocal. I'm not sure the vocal from the album or Daylane demo final version would fit this harder version or so, but it would be interesting to see it if it could, because I do love this is my favorite backing track as far as just the full sound goes. It's not done yet. It's not fully enveloped. There's some stuff that they're still kind of developing, getting to, but man, it's not too far off either. So I don't know what you think. I love this version, but unfortunately, with being a guide vocal and everything else, it is what it is. So, all right, next up we got the backing track version. Another thing that the Queen has done with their box sets is they basically release whole CDs of just the backing tracks or instrumentals. Not always exactly the same. It's not like exactly a karaoke track. It's not all instrumental. Depends on what they want to do, but it's a backing track version. So let's listen to that, come back, and we will talk about it. Okay, welcome back. That was the backing track. Now, sometimes these backing tracks are very, very cool to hear because you hear things that were buried underneath the vocals. Of course, Queen is a very, very vocal band, and a lot of harmonies, a lot of layered vocals. You can lose some stuff in the mix because they're covered by Messrs. Mercury, May, and Taylor. However, in this case, I don't think that really is the case. I didn't really hear a whole lot that I wouldn't have heard because there's a lot of drop-off anyway. We still have the backing vocals in this version, so all we're really missing is Freddie's lead vocal, which was never very overpowering in this song, and that's not a knock on it at all. It just doesn't bury anything. So there's also a lot of extended instrumental bits as well anyway, so I kind of feel like this was almost honestly a little pointless. I didn't know, I don't really feel like I got much out of this version I don't get from listening just to the 2024 mix. It does work a little bit better at the end. The drums and the bass and guitar drop away underneath that last all going down. That's kind of cool. But for the most part, your miles may vary. All right, let's listen to the last version that we're going to listen to today, live at Imperial College from August 23rd, 1970. Queen's very first performance in London. It is the earliest known Queen recording in existence outside of Brian May's possible home archives of rehearsals and things. But the very first live performance by the band that we know of in existence. Brian and Roger were very excited to find this, as was, even the fans were excited, even if we didn't get to hear a whole lot of it. Just getting to hear even 2 tracks is great. Again, like I said previously in the podcast here, predated John Deacon's arrival. Got Barry Mitchell, who is still around and still has made some conversations at Queen conventions and on Facebook, and so he's kind of an interesting resource, of course. Let's listen to this version and see what is different about it, if anything. All right, there you have it. Obviously, again, the sound quality, not the best. It's just a cassette recording. It's one of those cases where, you'd prefer a decent recording. Obviously, that's what we're here for. But it's more important that we got this treasure of a performance from 1970, a pre-John Deacon performance, a pre-release of Queen 1 initially. So it's just, as far as archival history goes, as far as history of the band goes, development of the band goes, this is a treasure, even if it's not the greatest sound quality. But the sound quality is going to mark it as something I'm not going to probably put as a crown jewel, because the crown jewel is supposed to be the best version available. This is not the best version available, but it is very interesting to hear. I'm very, very happy to hear it. It's pretty close to what the final version is. It's not like the band did a whole lot different when it got to recording it. Barry Mitchell does a very admirable job. He shines a bit during the instrumental section, kind of goes along with Brian and Roger then. His main bass line throughout, simplistic, but it's effective. Nothing bad about it at all. He's definitely... I remember when I heard that he left, I was kind of wondering, well, did he leave? Was he kicked out? Or was he bad? It's just interesting hearing what we had before John Deacon came in. And I'm happy to say that Barry seems like he's a very admirable bassist, and I think he would have done well with the band. At the same time, everything worked out how it was supposed to work out, I'm sure. And John's melodic bass line is something I like a little bit more. John plays around a little bit more during the verses. Doesn't just play a simplistic plunk, plunk, plunk. He kind of goes through and adds a lot of little flourish to it, which I really appreciate. It's not a knock against Barry Mitchell, because Barry does very well. And hell, this was actually I believe this is Barry Mitchell's first performance with the band. The band had just recently let go of Mike Rose, their previous bassist, and they've only been playing together for about a month and a half, perhaps, at this point. So a lot. It's hard to judge John Deacon's entire career, studio recording, and everything else with the band versus one performance from 1970. If there are 2 songs there after the band's been playing together for 2 months, right? But hey, what we got, from what I can judge from what we got, I think Barry did a fine job. Roger definitely is over-eager at times. Some drum-filled madness in the middle sections there. And his crystal clear backing vocals always shine through, even on the less quality recorded sound. His vocals are really there in the background and really help drive that for sure. It's kind of a cool thing to listen to, for sure. It's a good performance, fine performance in front of a handful of people, not a very large audience at this point. So that's what makes it kind of a treasure. But yeah, it's not going to be the crown jewel. But hey, I'm glad we got it nonetheless. All right, let's move on then. We've listened to everything now. We're going to move on to the next section, the last section of this podcast episode, where we see where it slides into the ultimate playlist and to see if it slides into the top 10 Queen-related songs of all time. I initially gave the song 7 out of 11 because we always turn things up to 11 here on PLD Projects. That's not going to change this week. I'm still going to put it as a 7. Not my favorite song on the album. Definitely a little plodding at times. Definitely a little, it's got a little straightforward at times. Got some good moments. Got some nice chunky moments. Got some nice instrumental moments. But overall, it's fine. As far as the actual crown jewel, last time I rated Day Lane Lay demo number 2 and the album version number 1. Let's see what happens now. I'm going to go out of the entirety of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 slots we have. Coming in number 7, it's the backing track. And that's because there's nothing interesting about it compared to if I'm going to listen to this, might as well listen to the 2024 mix. It's probably a better version than some of the other ones as far as sound quality goes and hearing things, but I can't put it anywhere but 7 because I'd much rather listen to the 2024 version and get exactly what I'm getting out of that. So next up from that, the Day Lane Lay Take 2 with guide vocal. Again, I love that version. I do love that version if it was only a serious vocal take from Freddie. I kind of wish the band had taken this harder approach. Brian had taken this harder approach. It makes it a little more hard to ignore. It's definitely more in your face, which I like about it. From there, that's where I got the Live at Imperial College, August 23rd, 1970. Those could actually go back and forth, honestly, with me, because Freddie's vocals in the 1970 concert are fine as well. They're definitely a more final take version. But at the same time, that instrumental section from Day Lane Lay Take 2, man, that almost wins me over. I'm kind of weighing it here on this one. I'm going to still stick with Live at Imperial College there, just because it's a nice little version to listen to, a full version, an actual full take version of it. So it is what it is. From there, it's the Day Lane Lay demo, and then the album version, which means our top 2 are both from the Collector's Edition, Collector 1 Edition. So a new champion, a new crown jewel. Which is it? You would think it'd be the Day Lane Lay demo 24 mix and then the 2024 mix, because that's exactly how it was initially, right? Well, shocker here, the 2024 mix comes in number 2, and the winner and new crown jewel is actually the Day Lane Lay demo 2024 mix. With that crispness, with that much better source not from Brian May's home acetate, this version really kicks it into gear. And having that extra instrumental part, the extra guitar solo, it makes it give another minute and a half long of instrumental explosions, makes the song much more interesting to listen to overall. And I think at this part, that's why this one is the one. If I had to listen to one version, I'm going to listen to this one, getting more Brian, getting more Roger, and more John at that point. So that's what's going to be. Day Lane Lay demo 2024 mix. Leave me some comments below. What do you think? Maybe you like the different version better. Maybe you like the album version better. Hell, maybe you want to listen to the backing track. Maybe that's your crown jewel. I don't know. Miles may vary. I'm all here for it. So there you go. All right, that's going to do it for us this week, folks. Thank you so much again. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, leave some comments. Help us fight the evil algorithm here we got here on YouTube and in all the audio feeds everywhere, Apple, Spotify, all those good things. Next week, we're going to go back to the Queen 1 box set for one last time for the main album, and that's the Seven Seas of Rhye, ... Seven Seas of Rhye, ellipsis. Just so you know, if you haven't heard it before, this is not the hit single you might know of. That's from Queen 2. This was the early version that they kind of ended the album as a kind of trail off. It's only about a minute plus of just basically the initial piano riff. Not much more than that. But it is a track, so we're going to tackle it and go from there. After that, we'll have 2 more episodes, I believe, 2 more episodes from Queen 1 box set. Some basic extra tracks that weren't from the main album, per se. Before we get back into Flash Gordon, which will probably come back in March, we'll resume where we were on the Flash Gordon soundtrack, which I believe was in the Death Cell. But we'll get there. We'll get there. All right, thank you guys so much. If you like to support us, like to support the channel, like, subscribe, all that stuff, like I said, patreon.com/PLDprojects, where you'll get early versions of the Crown Jewels episodes. These are the ones I definitely will put up early because I record them early. And beyond that, we also do some extra episodes of Two Mediocre White Dudes on Film, my movie podcast I do with PJ Campbell on my main YouTube channel, PLD Projects. But if you can't help that way, I totally get it. I really do get it. I understand. Times are tough. I understand. But if you can help me any other way, that would be greatly appreciated. Trying to build this out as best we can. So all right, stay tuned till next week. Seven Seas of Rhye ... or Seven Seas of Rhye with the ellipsis, and I'll be next week. Until then, keep yourself alive, everybody. God save the Queen, and as always, pray to Jesus. I mean, if you want to. I'm not a religious guy. Whatever you want to do.